All right, as people start to join us here, we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody, to our live online chat with Michigan goaltender Strauss Mann, the Big Ten Goaltender of the Year. I'm Ed Kongursky from MGoBlue TV. And Strauss, first of all, thanks for taking some time out and spending a few minutes with us here online with some of the fans out there.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. It's great to be here and to see a lot of you guys tuning in and time when we're not on the ice. So thanks for having me.
All right, so as people kind of get on here, Strauss, I'm just going to lay out kind of the blueprint, what we're going to try to do here over the next 30 minutes or whatever it turns out being. So we're going to talk. Strauss and I are going to chat about last season. We're going to talk about the upcoming season, talk about some stuff in between those two things, and then also maybe get to know Strauss a little better on a personal level based on some of the questions we're already getting in. And speaking of questions, there's that chat feature on your computer, folks, so feel free to submit a question. I'll do my best to get to all of those during our chat here, but can't promise you anything, but we'll do our best, all right? So Strauss, let's you and I just kind of ease into this conversation a bit. 2019-2020. Don't want to ask you about the season yet, but what did you do to get ready for the 2019-2020 season? You come off a freshman year where you had some pretty good success. You kind of found your footing as a collegiate athlete, and then you take off as a sophomore. What do you think was the difference for you in year number two?
For me, I was just trying to use all the resources we have in Michigan and kind of look back at my freshman season and leave no stone unturned and look through flaws, my strong suits, and kind of figure out where I wanted to improve and really nail down some areas of my game. And unfortunately, our season ended pretty early. My freshman year, we were knocked out in the first round, but the positive side to that was that we had like a 6 to 7 month off season. So there's a lot of room for improvement and time to look at my game and just working with Steve Shields, who was our goalie coach then, and some other great goalie coaches that I know. I was able to kind of just tune down some areas that I wanted to improve on. And yeah, that was really what it was about.
You and I have talked about this before, but how rewarding was last year in the sense that this team struggled to kind of find its way or at least get the results you wanted to get. And at the end of the year, you guys were arguably the hottest team in the country. I mean, nobody wanted to play Michigan at the end of last season.
For sure. It was very rewarding. That's definitely a great word. I think we played some really good hockey all year. And for those of you who went to our games and saw some of our games, we lost a lot of close games early in the year that maybe we deserved to win, but the focus was kind of on the big picture and the long term and just coming to the rink every day and giving our best. And it was really rewarding when we started to get those wins and things started to turn around for us because we know we had been working hard since day one and playing as a team. So it kind of just felt right when it all fell together.
I've talked to a lot of student athletes since the pandemic hit. And the answers are really fascinating, really interesting to hear different perspectives on things. But when you found out the season would be no more, and we talked about how well you guys were playing, the Frozen Four was going to be in Detroit. How did you wrap your head around that? How did you handle that as a young man with such huge aspirations?
It was tough. It was a tough time. And in the moment, we felt pretty bad for our seniors because that's kind of how their careers ended, and we all knew we had a chance to do something special. But as time kind of goes on, you gain perspective and realize that there's a world out there that is really struggling and a country that is going through some tough times. And there's a lot of people that have it worse than us. I mean, we got to play a pretty large portion of our season and got to make those memories. And a lot of other teams and sports didn't even get that chance. So when you look back at it, it's definitely glass half full. But yeah, at the time it was pretty tough, and it was definitely something that none of us had gone through before. So definitely a learning experience as well.
Strauss going to jump in here with some questions from some of our online viewers. Gentleman or a young man named Jacob wants to know what motivated you to be a goalie.
What motivated me to be a goalie? I'll actually give the credit on that to my dad. He didn't play hockey at all, but he was the coach of our I was like 7 or 8, and we played a house league, and they would rotate the goalie every week. And then our team was in the championship one week, and he was like, "You got to play goalie. Like the team with the best goalie wins." And I guess I was pretty good at the time when I was 7 in a house league. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And we won the game, and kind of ever since then, I've kind of stuck with the position. So he gets the credit for that.
Question from James. You're a talented hockey player. What drew you to ultimately pick Michigan as your school to play for?
Michigan was always kind of my dream school growing up. Every time I watched football games on Saturday afternoons, kind of always ended up just finding the Michigan games. Nothing conscious about it, just kind of always liked the Maize and Blue, and seemed like kind of the perfect package of academics, hockey, and culture. And that was kind of just, from my dream school from an early age. Wasn't something I necessarily thought was achievable, especially in high school, just because they don't recruit from my area a ton, and wasn't necessarily in a position to just be picking from any school I wanted to go to. But when I did end up getting the offer, it was an absolute no-brainer, and I committed the day I got the offer. So yeah.
You know, when you get that offer, you said you committed the day you got the offer. What is that sense of emotion when a school like Michigan offers you, and you're just, I mean, you just paralyzed for a moment there before you kind of can absorb it all?
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty crazy, I think, especially when it's a dream school like that. And yeah, for me, it was just hearing that they wanted me as part of the program, such a historic program and such an amazing school. It was definitely a lot of waves of emotion, and kind of had to hold it together in my meeting with Coach Pearson. But once I stepped in the elevator back in the hotel room, kind of with my dad again, jumped in excitement. It was pretty unreal.
A young goalie named Grayson wants to know your pregame rituals.
Pregame rituals. Definitely try and eat the right way and get a good meal in before the game. Depending on the time of the game, I'll usually take about 45-minute to hour-long nap, and get to the rink pretty early, about 2.5, 3 hours before the game, and have some stretches that I like to do every time. Try and stay pretty focused and dialed in. I know the other guys on the team know not to talk to me before a game, but just try and stay as focused as I can and get my mindset in the right place.
Got a lot of questions coming in, so this is good, Strauss. Vanessa wants to know, what's your favorite memory so far at Michigan?
Favorite memory? I'd have to say the last games we played at Yost, beating Michigan State in the first round of the Big Ten. That was pretty amazing memory. Just even though it wasn't packed barn because of the playoffs, all the tickets are different, but we got a great turnout, and just to beat your biggest rival on a big stage and sweep them and kind of end their season, it definitely gave us a big sense of satisfaction, even though we weren't able to continue what we started.
Every year when the Michigan State games roll around, we tend to do a rivalry piece, and there's always new input from new athletes who jump into the program and they learn about it. A guy who's not from Michigan, who's not from the Midwest, what struck you most about the rivalry now that you've been in it for a couple years and you get a better sense of it?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you grow up, you always hear about Michigan, Ohio State, especially if you're not from the state of Michigan. And so you get here and you start to realize that in terms of hockey, Michigan State's definitely the bigger rival, and there's kind of a hatred for green, and it's really something you have to experience firsthand, I think, and something can't be taught. But just playing in those games with green versus maize and blue in the stands, and just the passion between families and within families, and I know a lot of guys on both teams were committed to the other school at one point, and it's just a pretty special and intense in-state rivalry that is pretty cool to be a part of, even not being from the state of Michigan.
When you choose Michigan, you choose Yost, the greatest college hockey venue in the country. What is it about playing at Yost that you love so much?
I just think it's the best arena in all of college hockey. Like you said, it's got the historic piece to it, and it's also not too shabby of a place to watch a hockey game. It's pretty beautiful the way they renovated it a few years ago, and just with all the fans kind of over you, it's a pretty special feeling, and it's definitely a blessing that we get to step on that ice every day for practice even. Just have a little natural vitamin D coming in through the windows is pretty fun.
Well, that kind of parlays into our next question here, but a young man named Tyler wants to know, what is it like when a young fan like me, talking about himself, he's age 9, wants to get a picture with you or wants to get your autograph after a game? What is that like?
It's pretty crazy, pretty surreal, because I was definitely that kid also at Rangers games in my area, and it's definitely a fun thing to go to games when you're little, and just watching those games and those athletes compete is fun. So to know that maybe I'm a role model or someone that people look up to is pretty special, and definitely take that to heart and try and handle myself the right way because of that.
Maddie wants to know, who has impacted your hockey game the most? And I know this is always a tough question because so many people you've probably worked with over the years who have made an impact or an impression on you, but are there a few people you'd like to mention that have really helped push you along or help get you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough question because I've worked with so many amazing coaches and people that have helped my hockey game and me personally. But the one that I'd say probably is a guy named Steve Valiquette, who was a former NHL goalie and has been coaching in Connecticut area for a while now. And I started working with him when I was about 13, and have been working with him ever since. And he kind of gave me the foundation for my goalie game, and also helped me realize my potential, and giving me a growth mindset at a young age, and trying to help me succeed on and off the ice. So definitely give him a lot of credit.
Here's an interesting question. If you couldn't play goalie, what other position would you play? I mean, perhaps you played some other positions growing up, but what other position would you want to play if you couldn't play goalie?
Very good question. I think probably a D-man, just because I don't know about I have that defensive side in me, but yeah, it's definitely a tough question. I also just love with goalie, like I've grown to love the mental side of things, and all the mental preparation that goes into it, and learning to manage your mind and your emotions. And I think probably the next closest thing to that is probably defense, because if you make a mistake, you as a goalie, you cause a goal, and if you make a mistake as a defenseman, you're causing a pretty big scoring chance. So.
Here's a good follow-up to that question from Michael. How do you stay calm in a bad situation? Not that you have many of those, but.
No, there's always bad situations and goals you don't want to go in, or there's adversity that comes with every game. And for me, it's all about putting in the preparation just in the off season and the training sessions to learn how to overcome the adversity. So it's not just hoping that it shows up on game time, but coming up with some mental formulas for myself that work, and so that when a goal goes in a big time game, it's just running that routine through again and regrouping. And it's never easy, but it's something that if you put enough practice in, it becomes easier over time.
Got a number of questions on this topic. People want to know kind of how you've been staying in shape, how you've been staying sharp during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's obviously a very interesting time and for athletes, and it's been about 4 months now, it feels like. So hasn't been the same throughout, but at the beginning, obviously wasn't allowed to leave the house at all, and was doing workouts on my own and trying to get in really good shape in terms of strength and quickness. And also kind of, for me, a big part of every season is going through all the video and breaking things down and looking at areas that I wanted to improve on. So kind of nailed down about 10 to 15 little details that I think I can improve on for next year, and things to sharpen up. So that was definitely huge. And doing that also gives my body a rest from the ice for a little bit, and now starting to get back on the ice wherever I can find it, and in a good social distance ice rink. But yeah, so just been trying to keep the process as normal as possible, but trying to adapt along the way as I can.
A good, healthy locker room, guys play off of each other, a lot of different guys, but we have an anonymous attendee who wants to know of somebody who kind of motivates you on and off the ice, somebody on your team, maybe somebody early on in your career when you were coming in here as an unknown and you weren't sure about some things.
It's a great question. I think there's a lot of guys on our team that have brought a lot of different things to the table, and a lot of great guys that I've been able to look up to. One example of a guy is like Luke Martin. He's just a great character guy, loose guy, probably brings out a little bit of my looser side and helps me balance my intense side. But he's actually living with us for the rest of the summer and quarantining with us. So he's been someone that's become a great friend. And also I'd say Jack Becker is a big person. We lived together this year, and he's in the business school with me, and he's a year ahead of me. So he was kind of able to show me the ropes there, and teach me what it takes to be a good student athlete, both in the classroom and on the ice. And he's definitely helped me a lot along the way.
What age did you start playing hockey? Somebody wants to know when you got going with your hockey career.
I think about 7 was when I really started playing hockey, but I was talking with my mom the other day, and she gave me skating lessons, I think at like 5, let's say. And she, no hockey backgrounds, from Louisiana, but the coach that I was skating with kept telling her he needs to play ice hockey, and she was like, no. But eventually, I guess I convinced her to let me strap on the pads.
Did you like it right away? You know, not every kid gravitates to the game immediately. It might take some time.
I think I did. It was all my friends kind of played when I was younger, so I was always fascinated by the sport. And then right away, it just kind of felt like such a cool thing and something that I had a passion for, just from an early age, like wanting to get up for those early morning before school practices. I think that was kind of the telltale sign that there was something that I loved, and even when no one was making me do it.
I want to take a minute here, Strauss, re-welcome everybody who's watching our live online chat. Strauss Mann, clearly Big Ten Goaltender of the Year. I'm Ed Kingerski from MGoBlue TV. We certainly appreciate everybody who's logged on today, and there's questions coming in on your chat function on your computer, so keep them coming. We'll get to as many of those as we can. The next question is, we talked about Yost earlier. Somebody wants to know, what's your favorite thing about the children of Yost?
Favorite thing is, I'd say, probably how they get to the other goalie. I know as a goalie, it can be tough. There's enough distractions in the game, and when they can kind of jab at the opposing goalie and maybe try and get in their head, that helps more than they probably even know, because goalie is obviously a very mental position, and I think they do it better than anyone else.
Kind of a loaded question here, but when you go on the road, how are you able to block out the opposing student section and the opposing fans when they're just going nuts?
Yeah, and again, it kind of relates to the other question about adversity in games and responding to situations, but just trying to make sure I get in the right mindset before the game. And it kind of relates to why I'm a little bit more focused and quiet before games, just because I want to make sure come puck drop that my mindset's where I want it to be, and that I'm laser focused on the puck and on the right things, and not getting distracted by the crowd or the noise. And but with that specifically, also, I think it's all about how you phrase it. I just phrase it to myself as it's pretty fun to play in front of an opposing crowd, and pretty lucky to be the one person that maybe 5,000 fans are chanting against. It's pretty funny and like interesting feeling. So just all about how you phrase it to yourself.
Got somebody here who says you have a unique squirt with your water bottle and wants to know kind of where that came from.
I do. It actually came from Braden Holtby, who plays with the Capitals. And again, grew up going to a bunch of Rangers games, and I remember sitting behind him, like about 15 rows up, let's say, and he was doing that between every whistle, just squirting his water bottle and tracking the little droplets, and just keeping his eyes focused on the droplets. And I was actually the first one to be heckling at him, and as a fan in the game, but I've actually adopted it. I think it's a pretty cool way to stay focused, especially when you're not seeing a puck for a while. That's something that happens as a goalie. You go stretches with getting a bunch of shots and then maybe 10, 15 minutes without one. So it's a good way to keep your eyes ready.
Someone named Reagan, 8 years old, from Raleigh, North Carolina, wants to know, if not hockey, what sport would you play? And maybe what sports did you play growing up that you also loved?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think I grew up playing mostly hockey, baseball, and soccer. Um, I don't know what I play. Probably, yeah, probably baseball or soccer. Right now, I would say probably golf, just because it's the only sport I still play besides hockey, pretty much. But yeah, I love playing a lot of sports. I think it's great as a kid to play as many sports as you can and just be active in any way you can, and keep doing that as long as possible, because one day you won't be able to keep playing all the sports, and that's how it goes.
Question from Gene. Let's see here. Need my glasses. Sorry. What do you do to scout the other team, and what was the toughest team you played last season?
So scouting other teams, we do a team scout before games, and won't go into too much detail on that, but I try and kind of do my own stuff on maybe some players' tendencies, and trying to make sure I'm just as prepared as I can be going into the game, and that nothing surprises me. But at the end of the day, I always have to just zone back in on the puck and react to what's given to me. So try not to get too caught up in controlling everything, and just making sure I'm staying loose and letting the game come to me. Yeah.
Jenna wants to know who your favorite NHL team is.
Favorite NHL team's the Rangers, for sure. Definitely grew up a big Rangers fan. Still, like, where I train in the summers, a lot of the Rangers guys train there, so gotten to know some of them, which is pretty cool.
Here's a couple questions from Ed. Why number 31?
I wish there was a better explanation. I wish I could say it was for Steve Shields, but no, I'd been 30, 32, 29 in junior hockey, and then I kind of got the question, what number do you want to be at Michigan? And I was just looked at all the choices and thought 31 actually kind of fit me, and I just liked the feel of it and liked the thought of wearing number 31, so I went with it.
We talked about your favorite team. Who's your favorite hockey player?
Now I don't know, but growing up, it was definitely Henrik Lundqvist. He's still the goalie of the Rangers, and was definitely a role model of mine, someone who always battled very hard, and I got to watch a lot, and it was pretty cool to grow up being able to watch him, because he was definitely one of the best goalies in the NHL for many, many years, and have him on local TV was pretty cool as a kid to watch him.
Interesting question. Do you have any pets?
I do. I have 2 dogs. Their names are Nelson and Wesley. They've definitely been keeping me company during this time. They're very soft and keep the stress down.
So those are family dogs back home in Connecticut.
Family dogs. I have no pets at school.
Too busy.
Yeah, too busy. Jack Becker and I were thinking about maybe some chickens, but I don't know if it's a good idea.
Hey, some free-range eggs. That's not too bad, right?
That's what we're thinking about. I don't know if our backyard's necessarily organic fed, so we'll maybe wait on that.
You talked about the dogs back home in Connecticut. I'm always curious for, who folks who have to travel to go to school at Michigan from different parts of the country. How often do your family, do they get a chance to come and see you play?
They come a good amount. My dad, it seems like he's there basically every weekend. He just loves it. But it's actually, there's an airport not too far from our house that has a direct flight to Detroit, and so they try and come out whenever they can. Just because even in college, like, there's not too many games, only like a 35 to 40 game season. So whenever we get a home game, it's definitely something that they try and take advantage of, and they've definitely come to a lot in my first 2 years, which I'm very lucky.
We keep getting these Yost Arena questions. This one's from Barbara. We asked about children of Yost a little while ago. Barbara wants to know what difference the band makes.
The band is huge. I think that's all what college hockey is about, is having the band, and just brings a whole different atmosphere. And I don't focus on it too much during the play, but just reflecting on it all and looking back on it all and listening to my friends and family who come to games, it makes it definitely special having those chants that all the students and the alums know, and it's just a special feeling, and why I think a lot of people love to play college hockey and want to go to Michigan, because it's a special place, and all the alums take a lot of pride in the school, and that just carries over into the student body.
This is from Brodie, who I'm going to make the assumption is a young hockey player himself. What was kind of your daily routine before the pandemic?
Well, it's a hard question, because before the pandemic we were in season, and always the in season to off season very different regardless. But in season, by the end of the year, we're going to practice every day. Practices are a little bit shorter because we're trying to keep the legs fresh for the big games. But just going to school, we had spring break not too long before, so we got a little bit of a rest from school. But yeah, just going to class every day, and in the mornings, and then grabbing lunch, going to the rink, basically there from 2 to 6, coming home, doing some homework, and then just do it all over again. So that was kind of our days. And now it's obviously different being back at home with not as much structure, but just trying to create similar structure to myself to create routines and stay disciplined.
Jason wants to know who the biggest jokester on the team is. And you can talk about somebody who may be a departing senior, but from your 2 years here, who's the biggest jokester on the team?
Yeah, we'll give that one to Luke Martin as well. I'm giving him some good credit tonight. But yeah, he's a pretty funny guy. But we have a lot of funny guys on the team. But I'll give him the crown.
I got Michael here, who's just fast and furious with the questions, but he wants to know 3 stretches you do before the game. Maybe perhaps a young goaltender, maybe looking to pick up a tip or two from you there.
Yeah, usually I'm always stretching hip flexors, trying to keep my hips loose, roll out a good amount, just finding tight areas. And I try and mix it up. Don't want to get too much into superstitions and just doing things to do them, but do things because my body needs it. So every game kind of changes, but just trying to activate glute medius and all this different boring stuff that I won't really bore you with, but mostly trying to keep my hips and also shoulders and ankles pretty loose.
Have you ever scored a goal?
I have not. Well, in practice maybe, but not in the game, no.
Okay. Didn't know, maybe growing up, maybe you played another position and, snuck one in there. Let's see here. Brodie said, love you, bro. Keep up the great work. That's good. I want to ask you something off the ice, Strauss. We're talking a lot about hockey here, but you are clearly passionate about academics. You're a 3rd-team academic All-American. You're all Big Ten or academic all Big Ten. Where does your passion for academics come from, and your ability to excel at this level is something that people really should take note of?
Yeah, I think it's just something that was kind of instilled in me from a young age. My parents always made it very clear that academics come first, and my siblings, I have 2 older sisters and a younger sister, and they were always working hard and getting good grades. So I always, as a competitive person, kind of wanted to follow suit. And at Michigan, it just felt like such a great place academically to, especially with the business school, and anything less than giving your all to me felt like wasn't enough. And but I think it just, for me, it also helps my hockey. I say that all the time, but it helps me in the rink to give my all in the classroom, and vice versa, because when I know I've doing well in one area and I have a passion in one area, it kind of takes the pressure off the other area. And that's something that I definitely love, and something that's so great about Michigan as well, that it has so many resources in hockey and school, and so many great teachers and coaches that can help you along the way.
Majoring in business administration when your hockey career is over many years from now, hopefully after a long NHL career, what do you want to do with your degree? What do you want to do in the business world?
Yeah, so for now, I'm just kind of keeping my eyes on hockey and trying to play. But yeah, definitely down the line, I'd like to maybe start a business of my own, or do something entrepreneurship wise, and have a lot of friends both at Michigan and not at Michigan that are in business schools and really passionate about that stuff. So it'd be pretty cool one day to start something with a close friend of mine, and hopefully spark positive change in the world with it.
Brodie, we can't ask this question. Don't answer this, Strauss, but Brodie wants to know, if you were not at Michigan, what school would you go to? But we're not touching that, right? We're staying away from that question. There is no Oh, I thought we'd just have some fun with that one. What are the other Michigan games you like to go to? Now, I know as a student athlete, you don't get a lot of time to do stuff like that, but do you get a chance to maybe attend another sporting event here and there?
Yeah, I've been to a few football games, which are always really fun. Haven't really gotten to go to a basketball game since I've been at school, just because their season overlaps a lot with ours. But football games are the best, and kind of one of the really cool experiences that comes with being not only a student athlete, but just a student at Michigan, and getting to be a part of the big house and root your school on, and be a part of the kind of a bigger thing going on with all the alums and passionate students at the game.
I like this question from Jim and Mabel. Now that you're an upperclassman, a junior upperclassman, how will you prepare for the season? Just having that little extra knowledge and wisdom, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a change going from underclassmen to upperclassmen. We're losing a lot of really amazing seniors who are great leaders for our team, and now a bunch of guys have to step up and show our big freshman class kind of how things are done and what it takes to be a Michigan hockey player, and the standards that are set there. And it's been a big focus of ours to try and keep everyone on task and committed during this tough time. But I think we're all on the same page that we're working hard right now, and if we can continue to stay focused during the pandemic and during our time away from each other, that we can be pretty successful when we come back and hopefully have a step up on other teams who maybe aren't working as hard. So I'm just trying to help my teammates and just try and lead the best way I can, and just try and step up a little bit more.
We talked about this earlier with kind of staying in shape during the pandemic, but somebody wants to know here, and maybe just give them a general template, a general overview of kind of what's the immediate future for you as you guys kind of trickle back to campus, and kind of the steps moving forward from that perspective.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of unknown, and there's been a lot of unknown throughout this whole time, and but we're planning on as if we're playing, and all staying prepared like we're playing. And we've been apart for a while, but everyone's been doing their part in training and making sure they're ready to go, and we're back together. And we will be back together soon after we take the proper precautions and get tested and everything. But we're all really excited to get back once we're able, and just start preparing together, because we're all definitely ready to go, and want to get on the ice again soon.
The basis for the design on the back of your helmet, where does that come from?
That was kind of a logo I came up with my family a couple of years ago, I think, or maybe before freshman year. It says house, and it's got a big AU in the middle, and the AU is my cousin's initials, who passed about 2 years ago. His name is Andrew Unterberg, and so that's definitely a very special thing for my family and I, and definitely wear it with a lot of pride. And it's also, I tried to shape it basically a little bit after Yost too, to keep a little Michigan in there as well.
That's a great backstory. Still got a few questions coming in. Anybody out there watching, you can submit questions on the chat feature on your computer. We're going to keep it rolling here for a little while longer, Strauss, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, you got some more in you. Your favorite Michigan athlete. People may be surprised at this, but go ahead and tell people who your favorite Michigan athlete is.
Yeah, so I'd say Tom Brady, but I think you're saying people would be surprised just because I actually am a Jets fan. Not that the Jets have been a real rival or competitor of the Patriots in the past years, but Jets fans like to say that they don't like the Patriots. But I think Tom Brady is obviously someone that's very accomplished and very determined and hardworking, and his story is pretty amazing. How he came from being I think 199th draft pick to multiple Super Bowls, and obviously went to Michigan and had 3 sisters. I have 3 sisters, so a couple similarities, I guess, but I would be very lucky to kind of get to where he's gotten, and he's someone that I look up to in a lot of ways, even though he's not a hockey player.
Well, Strauss, I have three sisters as well. They're all older sisters, however, which leads into this question from me. Being at home, feel like you're back in high school a little bit, and what's kind of the dynamic at home with the sisters and the parents and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I've been back in, I guess, almost 4 months now, which is longer than I've been home in a few years, but definitely feels a little bit like high school again, just being with my parents and my siblings all the time, but also definitely probably a blessing in disguise because we don't always get to spend that much time together. And especially my little sister, she was obviously a lot younger when I was home and in high school still, and now she's 16, and it's cool to get to know her more as a person and who she's become. But we also had a cousin who lived in New York City, who's been staying with us, and he was kind of doing some of the workouts with me earlier on. His name's Marcel, and he definitely looks a lot better now than he did coming in. So that's been a fun thing to have, and someone that I've gotten to hang out with a lot as well.
Christian is a 12-year-old goalie and wants to, know any tips you may have for a young man wanting to kind of follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, it's a good question. I have a lot of tips, but I guess the biggest one is just focus on every day and the today and what you can do to get better each day. A lot of people get too fixated on the results, and especially in today's age with all the social media and things that kind of be distractions. People think it just kind of happens, but the real successful people and players are the ones that come to work every day and give their all and try and improve their game in any way they can. And I think if you can kind of just put your head down and tune out the noise and just work to get better every day, that when you look back in a few years, you'll be pretty surprised where you got.
Got a question here. What is your favorite genre of music to listen to?
Oh, that's a good one. I have a lot of good songs, I guess, in a lot of different genres that I like, but I think my siblings want me to say country is kind of the songs for summertime. That's kind of the genre I like in summertime.
All right, question here from Reese in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've had 3 surgeries at Mott. Remember players coming to visit me. If you had a chance to visit Mott, and what was that like for you, if so? And she says someday she wants to visit kids in the hospital to cheer them up.
Yeah, Mott's an amazing place. A lot of student athletes go on Thursday nights. For those of you who don't know, it's a great place to see some patients and hang out with some of the kids. And I've gone a bunch of times with a bunch of teammates. I know Will Lockwood went a lot, and some other guys started to go a bunch, Jack Becker and Nick Blankenberg, and it's a fun time to go and interact with the kids and not only cheer them up, but it brings a smile to our face as well. It's just a fun time to get to interact, and we love to go into the psych area and just getting to play games. It's just a fun time that can't really do there's not a lot of opportunities like that to give back. So it's something we try and do a lot as a team.
Strauss been talking a lot of hockey here, clearly talked about some academics, but there's also the college experience. You're on you're a leadership ambassador for the leadership team and also a student athlete advisory committee member. Why are those things important to you to get involved in those things while you're in school?
It's very important to me just because I think we've been given a lot of great resources at this school, and to be a part of that and to try and spark positive change in the community is a big passion of mine. And I think Michigan really cares as a school and as a student body. We really care about what goes on a day-to-day basis and are passionate about the Block M. And so anything that I can do or that other student athletes can do to help that process and to make Michigan a place that people want to go and that people are proud to call their or to be an alum of is something that I take pride in for sure. And definitely also want to help the hockey team as a whole become more of a part of the community. And so that's why I kind of took on some of those roles.
All right, just kind of scrolling through here, looking for some fresh questions. Somebody asked in here somewhere about, favorite place to play other than Yost. Maybe toughest is another way to look at that, because I know you'll have a challenge. But, maybe just pick another arena that you enjoy going to and performing well and taking care of business.
Yeah, I think Michigan State's always fun just because of that rivalry, but Penn State's also a place that can be kind of daunting to play at times, but is really really cool atmosphere, and they usually pack it and have a huge student section behind me. So like you said, I like to kind of face that challenge head on and embrace the atmosphere and the tough environment. Because as our coach says, it's like you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think that's when really successful teams make it, is when they're comfortable in those road situations when maybe they don't have the crowd behind them and there's a little bit of adversity. So Penn State's a good place to kind of get that test.
All right, Strauss, before we let you go, I want to get people fired up for the season that's to come. Just what gives you optimism going into this season? Been here a couple years now. Coach Pearson's been here a few years now. A very, very talented freshman class coming in. What kind of is in the forefront of your mind as you start projecting into 2020, 2021?
Yeah, we're really excited. We think we have a great group. We have definitely a young group, but it seems from meeting these guys virtually that they're all great kids, and we have a lot of great returning players as well that are ready to kind of take the next step. And I think we have everything we need from forwards, defense, and goaltending. And it's all about creating that culture now. And we've been doing that over this time in quarantine. And so we know when we're going to arrive on campus together that we're going to be ready to go, and that we're going to be able to slowly make a run at a national championship, because that's definitely our goal this year.
Got a question here. Somebody wants to know just how you're keeping in touch with your buddies, with your teammates during the pandemic. I'm sure you do some sort of a weekly, group call or something like that. But beyond that, is there anything you guys do to stay in touch?
Yeah, we've had kind of a weekly set team meeting, but we've also broken up into some smaller groups that have helped us kind of stay on track with things and keep each other motivated. But also we're lucky this day and age to have FaceTime and Zoom, and it's pretty easy if you want to just call your buddy up to hop on the phone and connect that way. So we're all definitely a close group of guys, and definitely been in touch with a lot of people and trying to stay positive throughout it all, and just kind of share some humor as well, because I think that's the best way to keep things light and keep things in perspective.
Strauss, I want to ask you about this coaching staff, led by Coach Pearson. What do you like about these guys, the impact they have on you as a young man, as a hockey player, this collection of young men who are in the same stage of life that you are? If you could talk about those guys a little bit and give them a bit of a shout out for all the hard work they do and the great things they do for you guys.
Yeah, we're definitely really lucky at Michigan to have such amazing coaches and amazing support staff as well. I think it's kind of unparalleled in college hockey, and from Coach Pearson to Coach McCall and Coach Mayotte, they just kind of give us all the aid we need every day in terms of helping grow our games and emphasizing that it's important to do the right things outside of the rink as well. And I think that they're a huge key to some of the success that we've had over the past couple of years, and that'll hopefully continue to grow. And and with the support staff like Coach Shields and Rick Bancroft and Evan Hall, Brian Brewster, Joe Mayer, they're just kind of some of the best guys that I know, and people who really care not only about their jobs but the whole culture. And they're on some of these team meetings just sharing their feedback and giving some great intel on how we can improve as a team and as a culture. And I think it's really important to have everyone kind of bought into that, and when people that get paid to do it are that invested in the actual team and the people in the locker room, then it definitely means a lot to us and helps us kind of give ourselves a bigger purpose for why we want to play for Michigan and the Block M.
Well, it certainly shows the way you guys perform on the ice. Certainly the end of last season when you guys were red hot. Strauss, we're going to wrap this up then. We want to thank everybody out there for jumping in and watching or listening and submitting questions. I think we got to most everything in one form or another. Some of the questions kind of, are similar, so I tried to kind of categorize those together and answer it with one. But thanks so much for your time. Be safe out there in Connecticut. I know you'll be back in Ann Arbor soon, so we look forward to seeing you soon, and we look forward to the new season. Good luck, Strauss, and again, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me on, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's great to kind of connect virtually and talk some hockey.
All right, take care. We'll see you soon.
All right, thanks.